February 5th.
We have an open slot at like 11,
Yeah, we have some open time.
and Mike Coon is at like 1:30.
1 or something, I don't remember.
Well, let's call it to order and then we'll sort out our schedule
Okay.
here. Ed here, and he's on the clock, so I'll get through that, so. The illustrious Jay Green.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jake.
Good morning. Jake, would you call us to order, please?
I would love to. Keisha Johnner,
Here.
Mark Ramey,
Here.
Steve McCombs.
Here.
Very good. Our agenda is the same as it has been for the last several days, which is review of FY 21-22 budget. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion, we approve today's agenda.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
Very good. Well, it's Friday. We said we were gonna get through this whole thing in 4 days. So we will, so let's talk schedule before we jump into, I think Ed is Ed first or is Andrew?
That's first.
Okay, so we have Lisa, Ed, Andrew.
And then we have 11 open because we did Kim,
Okay, so
Mike Coon
Kim,
is after me.
and then Mike.
Mike at 1.
Mike was supposed to be at 1:30. He called me this morning and
Well-
said if he needed to come early, I needed to let him know.
Let's do that. Let's move him up then since.
You wanna
Kim-
move him to 11?
Yep, let's do that.
Okay,
Yeah, Mike was just up here, so he's more than willing to adjust if you guys let him know.
That'd be great.
I'll let him know, Jake.
So
Okay.
then, who's it? Is that,
That's it. Then we discuss.
You were gonna have a wrap up at 2.
2. 1 is open.
So Steve and Keisha, do you want, since Mike is 11, he probably will go, what, half hour max?
Probably.
Yeah.
So we take lunch 11:30,
Come back by.
come back by 12:30, and then spend the next couple hours wrapping up.
Sure.
That sound good?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Very good.
So
That work for you,
12:30.
Jake?
Yeah, whatever we need to do today is fine. However you guys want to go.
Okay.
Well, we just want to get everything done, Jake, so
Yeah.
that keep us on task. We've got a lot of items to cover.
Yeah, so we really just have those main topics are the biggest things that we briefed yesterday afternoon for you guys, so.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, with that, we have County Attorney Ed Bull is up first. Ed, thank you for coming over. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's get into your proposed budget.
Well, let me give you a general overview of what our office has accomplished in the last year. I think with everyone else, COVID impacted all departments differently. And I think some of the things I'm going to tell you may come as a surprise and some may be what you expected. What I'll tell you is that our total number of cases that we handled in 2019 was 3,314. The total number of cases we handled in 2020 were 3,388. So COVID did not decrease crime in Marion County. I was giving an interview with one of our media outlets, and my comment was, it's days like yesterday that decrease crime. It's terrible weather. When we have mild winters, we don't see the decrease in crime.
Right.
And COVID showed us that we saw an increase in theft crimes, shoplifting, okay? And we also saw an increase in OWIs, which is one of the first spikes in the number of OWIs since I've been county attorney. We've had a general decline, and I think some of it was a byproduct of people may go to the bar and recognize I shouldn't be driving home. I just had a night out at the bar. Well, when the bars were closed, people were drinking either in their own home or at a friend's home, and that whole, I think, public reminder I shouldn't drive wasn't there. And so we saw an increase of that. The number one increase in our docket this year was on our simple misdemeanor docket, which is our traffic docket, that more and more people are fighting tickets than we've ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, the number one trials that we currently have, I think some of the unintended consequences is passing a school bus, because it used to be just a ticket, but now you lose your license. So if you get that citation, it isn't just paying a fine anymore. So there's no reason for a person to not want to have a trial. Maybe the cop doesn't show up, the school bus driver doesn't show up, or maybe we can't identify who the driver was, we just know the vehicle. And the other one is we saw an increase in people wanting trials on the new get over law. So if there's a law enforcement officer or just a vehicle with its hazards lights on, you have to either get over or slow down. And I think people know that's what the law is, but when push comes to shove, oh, I'll just give a little bit of room and I'll get over 6 inches because I'm getting off at the next exit. So those are tickets that we've had a lot of trials on. But the total number of cases that we've done have not gone down. The next part that I'll talk about before we get into whatever questions you have is our collections program. Our calendar year 2020, we in total collected $550,249. That returned $106,000 and some change to the general fund. It returned about $58,000 in sheriff's fees. So mostly those are room and board and medical expenses. It collected $40,000 in victims restitution, another $6,000 in our partner, the city's fine collection. People got city fines and then they got rolled into our collection program. So total number was $550,249 that we collected with one position in my office doing fine collection. That number is going to be.
That's a market increase. Is it
Well,
not it, or am I not
Well,
remembering it right?
what I'll tell you is we were slightly below $500,000. Our goal was to get over $500,000 this year, being calendar year 2020. Fiscal year 1920, because I know we like to think in fiscal terms, we're at $632,000 for fiscal year 1920. Our number is going to be way down this year, though. Just going to level with you.
Okay.
Collections, we are at this moment in time, through January, we're at $245,000 total. Collections, this is the one spot where COVID has had a drastic effect in people paying. And unfortunately, it's going to directly show in our citations and cases for driving while suspended, driving while barred, and driving while revoked. The number one reason our collections program is successful is because it's directly tied to you being able to maintain your driver's license. You come in, you owe a couple $1,000s, you get pulled over. We developed in our office a policy last year that we were going to work with people, give them 4 months to do whatever it takes to get their license back, and then dismiss the ticket against them. Because that driving while suspended is not only a $200 fine plus surcharge and court costs, it's also a 180-day additional suspension of your driver's license. Well, it's a vicious cycle. You don't pay a ticket, you lose your license, then you get pulled over for that. We have seen so many people default on their driver's license reinstatement programs during COVID. Wow. I mean, I don't know where we're going to end up on this year, but it is not going to be the type of year that we've had in the past.
Hey Ed, can I have just on clarity on the 106?
Yes.
When you did the 58, the 40, are you just talking about the separation in the 106, or is that on top of?
That's on top of.
Okay. All right.
In addition to.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a very convoluted calculation because the first $100,000 of whatever we collect, we don't get any credit
Right. Goes
for.
back to the.
It goes back to the state for the privilege of getting the next chunk.
Yeah.
And we saw last year, we don't know how it's going to play out, a change in legislation on the way that the sheriffs. I'm going to try to stay as positive as I can, but our legislature last year pretty much said, we already knew as prosecutors that it was very difficult to get a judge to send someone to jail or prison. It always has been. It's a last resort. You have to earn your right to prison in Iowa. You're going to get at least 2 to 3 failed attempts. Well, it used to be that at least the mechanism was that the person was going to get fined. Well, last year's legislative cycle made a determination of your ability to pay your court costs was going to be linked to your ability to pay. So if you were indigent and you got a free attorney, now your ability to reimburse jail fees, medical bills, your court-appointed attorney's fees, now is another individualized determination. So the reality is, as it is very, there are a lot less consequences to the criminal justice system right now than there ever has been in my legal career. There is an aversion of sending people to prison. There's an aversion of sending people to jail. And now all of the fiscal consequences tend to be going away. So that's the framework of what we're working in. What, did I answer your question,
Yep,
Keisha?
yep, nope, appreciate that.
So turning to the budget as a whole, I think what you will see is I have attempted to do what you've asked elected officials to do. And that is reduce the number of employees to work leaner. I will tell you that this is the leanest the Marion County Attorney's Office has been in the last 10 years. I usually average about 10 employees. We now have 7. I lost 2 employees last year. I did not replace, I basically reassigned job duties so that in addition to doing collections now, Chrissy in my office is back to her traditional role of also being our primary victim liaison person, so that we don't have a separate victim witness coordinator. It's a victim witness coordinator and collections. And then when Diana left, if you recall, prior to her leaving, but when Jeremy left, I went out and hired Cheyenne Wallace from the Polk County Attorney's Office, who's a Marion County resident, and was able to bring her into the fray. So she does more of the data entry side of things for victim services, and Chrissy does the one-on-one interaction. So we've drastically, we did not hire back the attorney position. We have continued to operate with 3 full-time assistants and myself since Nikki left a couple of years ago. So if you look at the bottom line, you will find that I am barely 1% increase over last year's request. And there is one major reason for that. If you look, you will see I have a line item, and it's one of the reasons why IT is here. I am asking for a substantial line item increase in what says pro law annual fee $52,500.
Yeah, Keisha and I talked about pro law and what that is a little bit.
We are, just so you know, the plan is to get rid of pro law.
Okay, so what, any substitute?
Yes, and that's why there's an increase in the cost. We have been working, pro law, Thompson Reuters, Westlaw, at least demonstrated to a lot of prosecutors that they were not overly committed to continuing to develop pro law. I honestly, it's such a specific program for prosecutors. I don't know how it was a moneymaker for them, if I'm just being honest.
Right.
There's a new company called Carpel, and they have designed a program called Prosecutor. This price is to transfer from pro law to Carpel. I have Andrew here because the number one difference is pro law, if I speak out of turn, is an absolute disaster to manage from an IT department. It is an eater of hard drives and servers, and it works a lot of the time, but when it doesn't, it's an immediate problem for them. Carpel's web-based. It is completely HIPAA and all legal compliance, and it's going to save us thousands of dollars a year in just hard drive and server space, because we're not going to maintain any of those things. It allows us, my attorneys, to have access to it wherever they are, which is nice when you're working on a search warrant at a scene or in a police department where you can't necessarily easily, because pro law does not like being wormed into, or whatever the correct term is, to desktop access. So that's a big number. I was contemplated going that direction last year. I did not at that time because I didn't think it was fiscally responsible at that time to ask for a line item increase of, $50,000. Since that time, 13 counties in Iowa have already made the switch, so we're not the guinea pig. Secondly, I'll tell you right now, that number isn't going to be 52.5. That's what I've budgeted. We are all but assured a grant for 8,000. We're working on a second grant right now. One of the other things Chrissy does in my office is write our grants. We will, and we're also haggling over on the total price. So I'm hoping to get the price down to about 44,000, get a grant for at least 7 or 8. And then the offset, we usually paid pro law $12,000 a year anyway. So it's not really 52. I mean, it is 52, but if you notice, we've looked at 12,005 every year in the past. So it's not additional 52. It's an additional 40. It's going to end up being an additional 32 at the most, just so we're all on the same page. It's a much better software. I'm sure, like everything else, there'll be learning problems.
Ed, that 32,000, though, that doesn't, you're not factoring in what time and money we're gonna save.
No, I have
for
no way to
IT.
say that over the next 3 years.
We don't know what that is, I know.
I know it's substantial, but I can't quantify it.
Okay,
Yeah, and it would be pretty hard for me to quantify that
Okay.
too.
Is that, I mean, typically, Ed, when you think of like an investment like this, how long do you think that lasts?
Well, you're gonna pay them $12,000 a year.
Okay.
I mean, for annual fees. I don't know, because I would have told you when we switched to Westlaw 9 years ago, or ProLaw, 9 years ago, that I was very satisfied with the product. And then over time, one of the things that is difficult in our line of work is that my employees work 8 hours a day, but law enforcement works 24. We don't have as much contact with the people who work the night shift as we do the people who work the day shift. It's just common sense. One of the things that happens, and out of fairness to our brethren who wear the uniform, sometimes they don't like us calling them when they're sleeping, or their departments don't want us to call them when it's an emergency, unless it's an emergency. Excuse me. This program has 2, what I'm going to call backdoor access points. That's probably not the right term, but so victims are able to register as a victim online through our system and say, I want to be contacted by text message when something happens. Then the system takes down all the information, notifies Chrissy or Cheyenne, we have a new victim who has registered. So all of the having to send those people's letters and everything else now is being brought up to modern day email and text messages. The other thing that's really nice about it is when we set a trial date, we put in a trial date, the victim automatically gets a message, says a trial's been set in your case for this day. Takes away, the other thing that allows us to do is law enforcement can go into the system and say, I just requested vacation the week of March 18th. The system then knows who the cop is who's assigned to the case. So if I set depots, my computer immediately pops up, warning, your police officer's not available. If I have to ask my police officer, hey, we need this report, you get somebody in the waiting room,
Oh, thanks.
need a report, normally that would have to be, that cop has to make a physical copy of the report, give it to their runner who then runs it over to our office the next day. This system has a portal that the cop can go into their case, go, I have a new report I want to upload, boop, next morning we come in and it says, you've had these officers upload records. The other thing that's very, very nice is discovery with the defense bar. The number of times that there has been disputes across time of you get to trial and the defense attorney says, I never saw that report. And the prosecutor says, well, I sent it to you in discovery. Well, now we put up everything we have onto a portal the defense bar gets into. It tells us what day we put it up there. It bait stamps automatically every PDF that's in there. They download it, and we know they've downloaded it. And so we're able to communicate, no, you got that on first. We put it up March 1st. You wasted a bunch of time. You didn't download it for your client till March 18th. Oh, today's March 20th for trial. You got this. It's on bait stamp page 18. So ProLaw just wasn't wanting to make those improvements on the software. So it's a better product. It
Streamlines. It seems like it's
streamlines, and there is a huge bill going through the legislation right now called Marcy's Law, and I know we've talked about Marcy's Law. I think it's odd to find prosecutors and domestic advocacy groups against Marcy's Law. It doesn't feel natural, but I think that over time, hopefully, we'll be able to get a Marcy's Law in Iowa that makes sense. It works in coordination with the laws we already have. it doesn't create an unreasonable, unintended fiscal consequence on the counties. Because the bill that they have right now would mean that I probably am coming to you saying I need to hire 3 more Chrissies. Because they have things like insurance companies are victims of crime. It's, every person has a right to be heard in every hearing. So it's a bond review, 48 hours. The victim wants to come in. That now means someone has to be with the victim up there. And so I think that this, we know we're gonna get some type of bill because the people behind Marcy's Law have an unlimited budget. They have demonstrated we have millions upon millions of dollars. We are going to do this in all 50 states, and then we're going to look for a federal constitutional amendment to have victims' rights protected in our Constitution. And this is their 3rd or 4th year. They've never gotten a vote, yet they still just keep pumping money in, hiring a new legislative team, new lobbying team. I think that they're going to get a bill passed at some time. It's just inevitable. This type of software will be instrumental in being able to comply with that law preemptively. Even if we do this now, I have to tell them, our liaison, by February 15th if we want in, and that way they'll get to us this calendar year. And that's important because I need it installed by December 31st to get my grant money. So that's where we're at on that. The only other,
Ed,
yes, sir.
we talked about that $12,000, for lack of a better term, that's a maintenance fee per year, basically, or?
Yes.
Okay, so you've already got that in your line item, the
Right.
$12,000, so that's kind of a wash. So we're looking at an outlay of probably 32,000.
Give or take, yes.
Okay.
I'm hopeful it's less than that. We'll continue to look for grants.
And does this Carpel, I mean, the 12.5, is that typical what they're gonna be charging too per?
I think it's gonna be less. I think we're gonna be about 11.8, but it's directly related to the number of users that we have. So if we pick up a new staff member, then the number, everything goes up, just like our Westlaw bill and everything else goes up.
Okay.
So, the other thing, kind of big ticket items on mine is, you see an increase in transcripts. It's an insignificant amount, but it is an increase. The reality is my office for the next 6 months is going to be absolutely slammed with trials. Everything that we haven't done since March of 2020, we're gonna have to start to pay the bill that's gonna come due. We've already seen, probably in the last 2 weeks, Ross Gibson, I think probably has 4 to 5 sex abuse trials that are gonna go in this calendar year. All of those have depositions, just has additional transcript costs. That's why they are what they are there.
You got cell phone, are you increased that, are you?
I did,
thinking of
and
helping?
basically reason being is I talked with Danny. I am trying to find perks to keep my employees without raising the big ticket items.
Mhm.
I don't want to increase salaries drastically, but if I'm the only county that doesn't pay a reimbursement for my county attorney's cell phone bills, so I got whatever is the reimbursement rate that I think maybe the engineer's office uses. That's what that is for my
Okay.
attorneys to be able to get reimbursement because they're using their cell phone minutes. So
I don't disagree.
I get one.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't
So
disagree. I
that's all
think
we
that
ask.
it's
Yeah,
it's
that's-
important, yep.
And I think it's an easy way to offer a perk
You bet.
It
that
is.
doesn't increase IPERS and insurance and everything else. And that's,
Good idea.
Nope, I agree.
so that's,
Okay.
that's where I think we're really at. A decreased the training budget just because there's no out-of-state trainings right now. So
Okay.
that went down for the year. The only unknown at this point is we are going to try a first-degree murder trial in May at this point. Although the defendant has requested new counsel, so we're going to have a hearing on that in a couple weeks. Depending on what defenses she raises, we may need some mental health experts. So we do have our line item for 5,000. If we go that route, as I think you guys have seen in the past, we're going to spend a lot more than $5,000 on a couple psychiatrists, but it's in there. I used to budget for about $30,000 in victim or witness fees. We didn't ever use that, but once every 4 or 5 years. you asked me last year, what effect was the boat trial gonna have on our budget? At this point, it depends a lot on what the defense's theory of their case is and whether or not we need to hire experts on our end. But
Okay.
we have a little bit budgeted from last year, a little bit budgeted for next year.
Okay.
We may go above that, but we'll find ways to find money elsewhere.
Okay. Very good.
Any other questions?
Steve,
Nope.
Keisha, any questions?
Ed, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, Ed, and as far as, at least my perspective, again, thank you for, going from 10 to 7. Big deal.
It
Big
is.
deal. I mean,
Appreciate your
we-
staff stepping,
we've asked
taking on
every
more.
department to do these things, and you've stepped up and done this as well. And the system sounds excellent. Sounds like everything we're trying to do to modernize both operations and then just how we function as a county government. So,
Right.
I think that'll be great.
And I will say, with a couple minutes left, because I know you gotta get to.
And Lexus doesn't have anything like, or do they exist anymore?
They do. They're actually, they send us a Freedom of Information Act request at least once a year to find out what our contract is with Westlaw. They are, and what's interesting is, when I went through law school, because I went to Drake was founded, a lot of the money, the library is named after Westlaw's founder.
Yeah.
But we just hired a new law clerk for the winter, over her winter break to get her to do some work for us. And she was completely trained on Lexus.
Yeah.
So Lexus is, I think, offering a product for solo practitioners and smaller firms that's significantly less expensive than Westlaw's product.
Okay.
Westlaw decided to invest, and it's a really great product that I can now put the brief of the defense attorney who's filed a motion and a brief. I can put the brief through the scanner, upload it to Westlaw, and virtually instantly, Westlaw spits back and says, they're not quoting the right law. Here's their mistakes.
Wow.
And go so far as to say, their argument, be careful, their argument might be stronger if they had found the right cases. And by the way, input your judge's name. We know what cases your judge tends to cite on let's say a Fifth Amendment
So using
issue.
a whole bunch of AI to analyze that, or,
Yes,
because they used to do that.
they used to have people
That did that.
right,
Yeah.
but now it's instant.
Wow.
It's Westlaw Edge, but I think they went that route instead of putting money into
Yeah.
their other products.
All this technology, Ed, does that, like our library up at the courthouse, is that making that kind of obsolete now, all the hard copies, or what's your feeling on that?
Well, I'll tell you, although it's not a line item that's found on my budget, about 7 years ago, I told our clerk of court to stop buying books. So we were spending, I think, through Jake, the auditor's office, about $12,000 a year, give or take, to continue to maintain the books in our law library. We decided to just simply say, if a member of the public comes in and would otherwise want to use a book, send them to our office. We will help them use Westlaw to gain whatever they want.
So we really don't have any up-to-date newer copies. Everything we have is history in that library, correct?
Correct. And the reality is you couldn't even give those books away if you wanted
Yeah.
to.
So they're taking up space.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's one of the reasons when we talked about what was that remodel going to look like, whether or not we wanted to pull those bookshelves out and just.
Yeah.
Now, the bottom line is if someone had the time or the inclination, you could put 3 or 4 of those books on eBay every night, and they're purchased by architects and stagers to stage properties
yeah.
or photographers to have law books or whatever. But otherwise, there's been no one in 8 years who's come in and said, could you help us do some research? Because the reality is,
Online.
you got Google.
Yeah.
And you can find, with a couple workarounds, any case I can find on Westlaw, you can find online. There's all sorts of additional services too.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, because I think our square footage is more valuable than.
Well, there is something, I'll tell you though, I watch these, I still buy the Iowa Code in book form. I can't fathom not opening a book
I
and
like
finding
it
law.
I like it in.
So, but, you hire a new lawyer, they look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean, folks? So.
Yep.
That's where we're at. I will say, I think we're gonna be very busy. We've had, we were anticipating a trial starting the 1st of February. It pled out the day before, or the Friday before. We do know, at least at this moment in time, we have our murder trial in May. I think we have at least 2 sex abuse cases in March that are currently scheduled to go. So we'll get a good sense of how the technology in the courtroom, we have, it's not a problem, but it's just a limitation that when you still enforce the 6-foot rule, even though we're wearing masks, the judicial branch still has adopted that 6 feet is what's going to be the requirement for the short term. That allows,
Short term?
well,
Okay.
I'm optimistic. But that allows for 14 seats in the courtroom, which is the exact number we need it to be, because that's 12 plus 2 alternates. It allows for 20 people in the overflow room. If we remove the tables that are in the law library or the overflow courtroom, if we remove the tables that are in there, we can put 9 more chairs in there. So it's 14, 30 plus 8. It means we only can bring in 42 jurors at once. That's still a relatively low number.
When you say remove them, Ed, you mean temporarily? Or
Temporarily,
Okay.
just they're
Okay.
not heavy tables, and so it complicates. I mean, if I'm just being candid, it complicates the way in which. On a normal size trial, that's fine. On a homicide trial, it's going to increase how long it takes us to pick a jury. And we're still trying to work out some of the kinks on how many jurors do we need to ask to come in to get the number that we used to. If we wanted 50 jurors to come in, we never got 100% compliance. The reality is our lists are good, but sometimes they include someone who just recently moved, or, people just don't show up. It is what it is. But we had great participation in Marion County. So for 50, we probably always would have 46 people show up for trial to be a juror. I don't know what the numbers are going to be if you got a jury notice right now. If you got your notice in the mail, I don't know what percentage is going to show up. And so that lends itself to say, well, we need to call more people in. Let's call in 75. Well, we can't have 75 people show up at once. And so we're going to have some learning curves. And we'll deal with that. I'm going to probably go watch a trial. February 23rd, Madison County is having a murder trial. And they're choosing to pick their jury at the fairgrounds because they recognize their courthouse can't handle it. I don't necessarily know that we have all that many buildings at the courthouse, or I'm sorry, at the fairgrounds, that if you start to say 6 feet spacing, Dyer Hudson would be the only one that you could think of, but it's not all that much bigger to get more than 50 people at once if you're doing 6 feet in all directions with chairs, and there's a fee associated with that. So we'll do our best. I'm thrilled with the technology that we currently have. I think our courtroom is nicer than any other courtroom in the state. I'll put us up against anyone.
Yeah.
We just need to figure out how it's going to work.
Sure. Yep.
So that's where we're at.
Very good.
Any other questions?
That being said, how's your new space working for you? I mean, any?
It is what it is. I like my office. It's beautiful. I just don't like being apart from where my staff are. It day in and day out, it works fine. We use Teams to communicate. We do all those type of things. It's the emergency situation, fire or intruder or armed invader, whatever it may be, where I can't necessarily account for where all my employees are, and I don't like that. But it is what it is.
You're not going to be able to account for where they're at all the time anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. But it's but the courthouse. I'm sure everyone has told you this. It's awesome. The technology, the TV's up now. what IT's done and what maintenance did, it's awesome.
Looks
It's
nice.
It's incredible. So very, I mean, it's better than anywhere else, so.
No,
So-
they did a great job.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank
Okay,
you.
take care.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, Ed.
Have a good
All
day.
You guys wanna go or you need a break?
No, we're good. I'm good.
You guys good? You guys good?
I'm good.
Ready to jump right into IT?
Sounds good. I prefer to, I just like reading Excel spreadsheets better than that. So, since I feel like I prefer it.
Nope.
So, I have, my IT and GIS budget in front of you here. And, really, there's not a lot of change other than the, 3% on the salary line items. There is a few items, though, that I did have, some changes on.
Yep.
So if you look at, 228, 229 there, on IT, that's my two main, purchasing line items. One is hardware and one's software. You'll see a 10% increase on hardware and about a 6% increase on software. And the software, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. That's fixed costs. Most of that, about 85% of that cost is our solution software that second floor uses all that as far as treasurer's, auditor's, assessor's office. That comes out of my budget. The rest of that line item is things like antivirus, remote control software, remote management, patching, things like that. So we typically see about a 4 to 5% increase year over year on that. If you look at previous years, you can see that I've used that every single year. So I try to keep that line pretty tight. And then the hardware, we have seen a massive increase in enterprise IT costs because of COVID. In fact, this last go around when I bought computers and laptops, it took me 14 weeks to get
them.
the equipment. So it's a pretty big increase in demand because everybody decided to start working from home. So all these enterprise companies and corporations started buying laptops for everybody and started buying enterprise VPN software and things like that. So, and I actually, if you look at the second page there, I have a breakdown of a few items. There's those two boxes underneath the graphs there. And this is what I give out to department heads each year. So if you look at like a standard desktop last year was $600. That exact same machine this year would be $750. That's how
Okay.
much increase I had.
Okay.
So there's a kind of a break. I left both of those in there. I give you this kind of every year, but
Yep.
I left last year's in there just so you can see just how much the
It
cost
increased.
of equipment has gone up over the last year. Now, maybe that'll come back down again after, COVID's over. Hopefully it will. And that'd be great, and then we'd have some savings there. But I have to kind of go off of today's prices. So, so I've got about a 10% increase in that line item. Then really the only other line item that I have increased here is under the GIS budget.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Why is that the
Same thing, that's software.
it's gone up that much?
So we did find out when we moved to enterprise with ESRI that we were going to need to buy a couple more licenses.
Okay.
So that's that. And then our Snyder contract is also built into that.
Okay.
And they've increased the standard kind of 4 to 5% there. So
Okay.
that's why we're seeing a little bigger uplift there is because of the we're moving from more of a standard license into an enterprise license for Esri.
Okay.
And so that has a bigger cost to it.
Okay.
So really that's about the only major changes I have, but I did always want to show you, I've shown you these graphs on the second page every year since I've been here. And I went ahead and added 2021 on there. As you can see, the technology demand is what I call it, the network devices that we have, and those are computers, printers, scanners, anything that's got an IP address on our network that we actively manage. It continues to go up, maybe not quite as steep as it had in the past, but it is still increasing. And then obviously our budget per device, kind of how many dollars IT spends on managing all of our equipment, has continued to decrease. One thing that we've only been running the help desk system for 3 years now, and if you look at that bottom left graph
It's
there,
going up.
that is our tickets per year. So as you can see, those have not decreased at all. So we continue to do lots of help desk stuff, and people continue to use that, and that's great, and it helps us out a lot because it helps us be more efficient, because we can work on multiple tickets at the same time. If we're sitting at our desks. We like to get out and visit departments and hands-on, one-on-one and stuff, and we do that as much as we can, but there are days where we're cranking out 20, 30 tickets each, and the only way we can do that is when we're working on multiple ones at a time. So we definitely use the ticketing system. We like it when departments use the ticketing. It also helps give us a record of what was done,
managing it,
and it really helps with multiple staff to be able to, I can see what he did on this ticket, now I can go back and reference it and stuff.
Okay.
Interestingly, if you look there on that bottom right graph, it's kind of funny. If you're ever wondering why IT is really busy on Mondays, it's because we get a lot of help desk tickets over the weekend. So we're trying to get stuff caught up, and Mondays people come in and open up a lot of tickets. Stuff happened over the weekend or whatever. So we do a lot of patching and updates on the weekends, and inevitably that tends to break things. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast. We do a lot of updates, patching, reboots over the weekend, stuff that maybe departments don't really realize that's happening.
Right.
They
just want it to work. Andrew.
They just want to come in Monday morning and have it work. Well, we still have to be able to update stuff and make it safe and secure for everybody. That third page, we did go ahead and apply for and receive all those 5 grants again for this year.
Awesome.
So we're getting about $40,000 there worth of grants on different security related items. And if anybody has any questions about any of those 5 items, they're all very awesome pieces of software and equipment. That tripwire is an actual hardware device that sits on our network. The rest, and actually number 2 is the rest are software. So we get those through the Homeland Security grant through the state of Iowa. And
where do you show those at? Do you show those as received? I mean, or those? How does I guess?
It's not granted dollars.
Okay.
They grant the product.
Okay, I get it. Okay.
Yep. So then they put a dollar figure to it.
Okay.
Yep. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. We talked with Carla, and she had talked about her site eventually when we do websites.
Mm-hmm.
She had not planned on, if we decide to go that way, and she talked like maybe doing phase 2, phase 3, if we, because of the economic development one, and then is there the Red Rock one? I think the Red Rock one's bigger than the economic development one or something like that. Putting all those together. She never put that in her budget. Is that something, what's your suggestion on that? How do we, if we go that route?
I think, so the website would fall under what I call, and I think Jake calls central services. So that actually comes out of 99 right now.
Okay.
And we talked about that a little bit yesterday. I think if Carla is on board bringing her sites in, I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
To bring them in.
But you think when I spoke with her today, I kind of told her, I said, let's get our website going first. Maybe that would be into next budget, not even this one, but the following year, and maybe even do it in 2 different phases, depending upon, because she has.
That seems perfectly reasonable to me.
Yeah.
I think if
Because I think they also have to tell us what it's gonna cost. We need to know the dollar figure.
I think if we wanted to tackle it in this budget, we could, probably. I mean, you're talking 18 months from now, still in this budget. 16 months, I guess.
Yeah.
If we wanted to try to tackle it, I think, maybe, this is the website now is a 14-week project that we just kicked off. So that puts us into May-ish timeframe. If it was something that you wanted to do in the fall, winter,
okay,
we could.
We can discuss it. I just was
it's
wanting
just,
to
I don't
put that
know,
out there.
it wasn't probably budgeted as a rebuild, right?
Right.
So I think she budgeted, my guess is she budgeted just as.
She didn't put it in her budget, she just did her maintenance costs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, rebuild will be probably a similar cost from what we have now, maybe a little slightly less because you have to build a platform. Because right now we're building the platform and then putting the site on top of it. Versus for her, if the platform's already built, now you just put the site on top of it.
Okay.
So I would assume there's probably maybe 75 to 80% of the cost is site building versus platform.
Okay. Of
what we're paying now.
Okay. The other thing is, so this is maybe more of a Jake question. Jake, we have GIS separate now. Is it easier if we put that all under one since it's yours? I mean,
there's a lot of different departments that have different budget. I don't have a problem doing 2 different. I have 52 and 18. I know there's a ton of Jake. You probably have it in your
office. Is it
office.
Easier for you that way, Jake, to separate it out?
It's not a problem for us to separate. It's just different department numbers. Again, there wasn't an IT department when there was a GIS. Some GIS is done out of assessor. There's just a variety of different ways.
Okay.
Unless you have as long as there's clear authority over who manages the department, now that it's Andrew now, it doesn't make it any harder to have it under 2 department numbers. It all comes out of the general fund.
Right.
So it's
just easier on our end.
choice for you guys.
I personally like, because it can see that it's all your one department, but.
Sure. Yeah, it really doesn't.
I don't want it to
matter
make
me.
more.
I know we're going off of this re-estimated line here because we did some moving of budget from this current fiscal year around, and Jake and I will have to do a budget amendment for that. If you go off of the original, you'll see we moved some salary from GIS over to IT and things like that. So we're kind of in a in between year, right? This current fiscal year. Once we get that once we start on this, moving forward, it should be pretty normal. But if the board would rather it be all in one budget, it really, like I said, it really doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
Coding stuff is no issue, no difference. You just type a different code in.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything.
Steve, anything?
No, I'm good.
Very good.
Excellent work, Andrew.
Thank you.
Andrew,
Thank you
thanks
for all the tasks we put onto you. We appreciate it.
You and your group did an amazing job.
Yep, again.
Transitioning a courthouse twice.
That was a lot of work.
Yes, it was. No,
Yes.
you guys did an amazing job.
That's,
Very proud of all of it.
Thankfully, that's behind us,
I know.
that part of it.
I'm very excited to see what the next step is. So I'm super excited about the website.
Me too.
yeah,
Me too.
yeah, I am.
So,
Yeah, it's
awesome.
very exciting.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. I was just gonna ask them, I told Mike 11 and it's 10 till 10.
We're being efficient today.
I
don't know
know.
what the deal is. So,
Do you wanna keep rolling? You want me to have him?
well, we probably should take a break because he's not
Let's
here.
take, how long will
Take him maybe 10 minutes?
If he's ready, I don't
When
know.
I left, he told me, he's like, just let me know when you're done.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's,
let's take a 10-minute recess and then.
Tell him to
time
come on
get out here.
out.
I don't want him to speak now.
okay. So Jake, did you hear that?
Yeah, I got it.
10-minute recess, I'll call Mike.
Okay.
All right.
February 5th, reconvene.
And Jake is there.
All right, Jake, we're back.
Oops, I keep hitting this.
Sounds good.
Talk with Mike, and the Veterans Affairs Department. So, Mike, tell us what we got here. What's happening?
He is
Jake.
21.
21.
Yep. All right. 3%, it looks like, Mike, pretty much.
I mean, nothing extraordinary.
Nothing extraordinary
I
there.
didn't do any changes. I took some out of rent and added a line item in there for transient, but other than that, I didn't make any changes on the budget as it was.
Okay. Do you, okay.
Yeah, it's a 1.47% increase
Yep.
overall. So,
On the funeral services, Mike, I see that, some years, 16, and then some 6. Have you ever used the 68? Well, just on the veteran side?
For funerals?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay.
But not very often.
Well, that's good.
Rule of thumb is if there's family, we don't pay. So
Right.
basically, it takes an indigent veteran for us to do the funeral.
Okay.
Mike, I guess the thing we've talked about in prior meetings, not necessarily budget meetings, but when you had your board chair here as well, was the need to increase contacts. COVID's probably thrown a complete curveball and all that, hasn't it? Would be my guess, but you tell me, have the numbers gone up, gone down? What's it been looking like? Are we able to get we're obviously able to get services to our veterans, but what about those who don't know about these services? Are we still able to get the message out to folks that there are these benefits available and access to
I
these
think
benefits?
so. Basically, I've heard from several places like Helping Hands or the VA Medical Center or whatever. They always refer people to me. I got a good referral process in line, really. But there's so much going on now. Of course, COVID impacted it a lot. But basically, I think I was doing better when the courthouse was closed. And I was letting them in the north door. I had people then. Now that we've opened up, I might have 1, maybe 2 veterans a day at most.
Okay.
And I feel like the Maytag repairman some days. But that's just for walk-in traffic.
Mhm.
But as far as emails and contacts and referrals from other counties, it continues. I have, and especially out like the nursing homes, they refer people if they get a widow of a veteran in there that wants to file for a pension or whatever. They're good at emailing me for the forms, and I can't go there, but they can start those forms, and we intermingle with families, and families end up either one coming to see me, or we get them mailed back and forth, and we file that way. A lot of times, the widow of a veteran, though, it's an elongated process because if a widow makes over 9,000 and some pennies a year, she doesn't qualify for a pension. So it's
How much?
$9,400 and some dollars a year. I know, it's pitiful. I hate to get involved in widows' pensions. I can deduct medical expenses and sometimes their living expenses, and then we can get it in. And I have awarded pensions to veterans and widows of veterans in these nursing homes. But then if they're going on Title 19, that throws another wrench into it, because if they have over $2,000 in a checking account, they get kicked off Title 19. So I mean, it's just it's not a good program, but we do get through it. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it did.
COVID has put a strain in a lot of things for me this year. It really has.
Yeah.
Schools and everything else.
And I'm assuming, Mike, you're seeing where some of these younger veterans that are coming out, they're doing a lot of things maybe online versus coming as population gets older. But transitioning, like, one day you'll retire, we've kind of talked about that, you and I. Do you have a process? I mean, do you have some things written down? I mean, for transitioning? I mean, any of that? I mean, for the next person?
Well, in some ways.
Okay.
Do I have a notebook made up of A, B, C, and D? No. Do I have sections that they would have to learn about right away? Yes. But basically, it's just like when I took over the job, you just kind of dig in and start learning from your other people out in other counties. Now, we do have a system in place.
Okay.
Where some of the other county veteran service officers that's been there a while come in and mentor whoever takes over and works with that person to get them online and get them educated and get them nationally trained and that type of thing.
Okay.
I imagine the next person that would take over my job is probably going to be younger and probably going to be wanting more to get involved in the VA regional office and some of that stuff with TIF and a bunch of other things where they can pretty much put everything on the computer.
Yep. I'm sure, yep.
But that goes against my reign of operation for security, so I've never done that, nor have I needed to compared to some other counties that have had to go that way. So.
I find that interesting, Mike, that you said that you were busier when the courthouse was closed. And what do you attribute that to?
Well, we were new into COVID, basically, so it just kind of got kicked off, But I think it was people would come up to the north door, call me, and I just let them in. They'd come in, and I just wait on them and send them right back out the north door, and it worked out very well for me all that time.
They don't know where the other door is, or what?
Well, no, I just, but they call and I tell them to come to that door, Steve.
Okay.
I just invite them to that door.
With you being switched from east to west, that anything? I mean,
Yes, it's a big deal.
well, we know the square footage. We know that, but I'm talking about, for the veterans
bigger-
finding you.
It's
Bigger than some people had that
Well, I know,
office.
but it's a foot narrower.
Listen
And
to
it doesn't
you.
bother me at all, but people come in my office and they say, you're smaller now.
You just say you lost weight. That's what you
You
just
know?
tell them.
It doesn't bother me at all. It works very good. I think it worked good for Ed. I think it worked out very good for the whole
Okay.
operation, and I'm happy, and it's
Yay.
fine. It's
Thank
not
you.
a problem.
Okay.
I can see the west side of the world now instead of the east. I still can't see the coffee connection though unless I go and look out the door.
No.
obviously.
Not unless you-
Well, see, I'd get a motivation to get up and go.
That's right.
Something like
That was
that.
non-solicitation, by the way.
Well, I'm pleased with it. I think traffic, we didn't get to have the veterans breakfast this year, and so I've still got a lot of calendars to hand out. I normally get rid of 200 plus that. And, stuff like that. We are
Yep.
gonna have our spring school in April. We're dividing it up 50-50 this year.
Okay.
Districts 1 through 4, which I'm a part of, will go Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday will be Association Day, and then Thursday and Friday, the other districts will go.
Okay.
So they've got that in plan, so we'll be able to get caught up with some of the changes and things that are going on that I don't pick up off the association website. We do have a good new association website, by the way, that I can get into that's limited and get everything that's going on that way, and that's helped a lot.
Very good. Any other questions, guys?
Nope.
Steve?
No, I don't. Thank you for what you do, Mike.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, very much. Thank you.
And thank you for your willingness through the whole process, and, with the courthouse and everything, the transition. Thank you for, your willingness for the change and
Hey, it's been really easy. It's been simple. It's been, you get people coming wandering in when it's all going on, you direct them back over to east or whatever. It's just a way of contact with people.
Yep.
And people are people. They're not going to change their ways, so,
Exactly.
That's right. No,
But I
get it.
will hand it to everybody that supports me in all the offices at the courthouse do a tremendous job. Lisa's a good backup for me when I communicate with her.
Yep.
I have no problems with the recorders or the assessors or anything else, even though they're running into their little problems right now. But basically, my job is just to file for people, not to follow them through the whole process.
Right,
So
yep.
Basically, I help where I can, and they're very good at helping me.
Good.
So we've always had that relationship.
Great.
Good.
Thank you, Mike.
Very
I don't have
good.
anything.
Mike, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks
No
for changing
problem.
your time twice.
Yeah, thank you. Again, that was
Well,
willingness.
it's not that I'm busy with people this morning.
It's a little chilly. Next week doesn't look like it's gonna be any better.
Next 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Vortex is hanging on at least for the next 2 weeks before we get double digits again.
Ouch.
Another inch and a half plus snow again tomorrow. I just love it.
It's so beautiful. It's so
I
beautiful.
only said that for you.
I know you did. I know, I was waiting for the.
Yeah,
next part
it's like
of that.
eat.
I worry about you sometimes.
I like snow.
Okay.
So, and Michael knows that.
That's back to coffee. And
Thanks, Mike.
I used to like snow.
My husband tells me.
I
don't
liked
like
snow
it.
until I fell, and then I'm like, hurt my bum.
I went home,
My wife asked me, you were born in Minnesota, you grew up in Minnesota, how come you don't like snow?
Yeah.
Well, I had my time in snow.
you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I go out and start my Tahoe up and just let the greenhouse gases get into the air a little bit. Hopefully that'll.
Warm it up.
I start my
Yeah,
truck
no,
up
that's not the
about
way it is.
6:30, about 6:15 when I get done walking the dog in the morning. I go into the shop and said, I don't come out till 7.
And you let your truck out?
Oh, it's so nice. The seats are so warm. Everybody, huh?
Now you need to be careful because John Kerry may be calling you.
He can call me all he wants. If he flies over, I'll even wave to him.
Yeah, there you go. His private jet.
That could change. That's why I didn't know the budget. Under the new administration, we could see more involvement this year. We'll see what
We'll
happens.
see what
Yeah,
happens.
no,
Yeah.
I get it.
Right. Be careful going home.
Thank
tonight.
you.
Well, it wasn't too bad today. It was 50-50.
Let's go
I've
slow.
driven home before you couldn't even see
Oh,
the
yeah,
dam, so
yeah.
Yeah.
it wasn't any problem.
Enjoy your weekend with
Yep.
the snow.
Yeah, right.
The climate czar.
Oh,
Passing out Heinz ketchup wherever he goes. I'm sorry, did I say
How
that?
did I know that quick? Whew.
What?
No one to come in, one to go out.
All right. So, is that it?
Yes.
Yep.
I don't know what printing and stuff's gonna be like
Jake?
in there, but
What's left?
Oh,
I think you guys have gotten through everybody.
All right, so. Now
It's up
we
to you if you wanna plow forward.
let's see, it is 10:14.
10:14.
Yeah, might as well
Yeah.
keep going. I mean, we need
Yeah.
to knock everything out, so,
Yeah,
actually, I can just use.
You're gonna get the whiteboard
I'm
out?
gonna use the whiteboard.
Oh.
Do you want us to zoom in on your whiteboard?
Nope.
Okay.
He likes to draw pictures.
There's nobody will be able to read it anyway.
Okay.
So we've got, compensation committee,
I'll be right back.
we have loss,
Don't leave us, Steve.
I'll be back.
Oh, okay.
now Jake, we've got loss, we also have debt levies too, right?
yeah, just the levies in general, all the levies.
So I've got, comp committee loss, levies,
Yep.
what else? Transfers?
Nope. At this point, those are the three main ones. It
Right.
would be if you need anybody to
And
do
then-
anything different, that would need to be directed to adjust and turn into me. I know that Kim is adjusting because of that grant restructure or whatever that was. I don't know. So she'll be getting that to me and then the changes you made yesterday. But if there's anything else directed departmentally that you need to have them turn into me, they need to know that now.
Okay,
Otherwise, that's it. Set the public, I mean, we'll do the public hearing and the stuff on March 9 as planned if that goes okay.
okay, so let's, take this, maybe let's do it this way, let's do this first.
Okay.
Let's talk that, and then we can talk lost. So Jake, we'll do comp committee first,
Okay?
then we'll talk budget changes, lost and levies.
All right?
Sound good?
Whatever. Yep.
All right. So, let's go to the comp committee. Yeah, I assume it's in here.
I don't know if you,
It is.
is it in there? Okay, because I have mine,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Just a second. It's under the miscellaneous tab, Mark.
Is that the front or the back, Jake?
In the front of the book, about the 8th tab down, or 7th or 8th tab down.
Remind me again, Jake, on this, we have to either go decrease as whole, we can't just say a certain amount, right? So like this is 100%, we either have to go down.
So let's
Yeah.
make sure we write this out. So on comp committee, we can go down.
I believe the terminology is equal percentage. Different boards have interpreted that different ways. That's why you see some of those scenarios.
So we
in
can
front
go
of you
down
is-
equal percentage, all,
Yeah.
political offices. Correct?
Yeah, this is just elected officials.
Elected officials, okay? And we can do the supervisor one as a line item, but we have to do a resolution with that.
Yeah,
Okay. So the comp board came up with an aggregate, I think it's what, Jake, about 3.25%, was that the aggregate?
it's the very if you want to look, if you're looking at those spreadsheets, it's 3.24 aggregate.
4%.
3.24
That
aggregate.
was close.
Yeah.
3.24% aggregate increase using the factors that they've always used. Again, the comp board really appreciate their service, what they did, the thoughtfulness, so I guess we'll open this up for discussion.
It's under miscellaneous.
I mean, everybody used the same CPI number.
Yep.
1.6.
Yeah. I mean, it's, to me, honestly, I was thinking a 3, right around a 3. So, I mean, to get it close to a 3, this seemed, I mean, it's. We can't just do a flat line 3. I mean,
Flatline what?
like a flat line 3. We have to either go,
Would be 3, you'd have to take everybody down.
Yeah,
the
it'd
same
be below,
percentage
yeah,
to
and
get
it-
everybody to 3.
yeah, and it makes it below 3. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
That's what,
so.
for some,
Where we at?
Yeah.
Where you at?
because
the miscellaneous.
your highest one on a percentage basis is county attorney at 3.3%.
Yep.
Of the total.
And then it goes us and then recorders.
Yeah, so if you took 1 down to get to 3, then you have to take them all down, so. So Michaela would probably take the biggest hit.
Yep.
Cause she's at 3.12%.
Yep.
So, and I'm fine, I mean, if you would take it all down 0.5% or whatever, or 0.3%,
I
that's
think
what
we-
you'd have to do.
I-
You have to take that down 0.3% to get to 3.
Question.
Right, but I don't know if we can, I thought we had to do it like to reduce the,
He's just giving you examples.
oh, is that just examples?
He's just
Okay.
giving you examples of if you reduced it by this much, that's what it would be. Is that correct, Jake?
if you're looking at the worksheets there,
Yeah.
yes, those are just different scenarios on
Yeah, we've used
How
these
you-
for,
how you guys, previous boards have asked to do things.
They can use a different percentage.
so this is,
Yep.
so like number 1 here is if we take it down by half,
Yeah, that's what I'm
Take it
saying.
down
Now
by
you're all
3/4.
below, yep.
take it down
Yeah.
by a full, take it down by, I had to do, yeah, we did it in
Yeah, so those are just scenarios. I mean, it can be,
now we could do a 50%, I mean, we can do it by percentage across the board, so if you go back a little bit,
Yep,
where
you
we,
can go.
we just reduced by 50, we reduced by, or
Yep.
65% of the recommendation, we
Yep.
accept. So there's a couple different strategies,
yeah, different boards have done it with a different approach.
right?
I don't have a problem with accepting it as is 100%.
Oops. So Jake, do you have the scenario spreadsheet up?
Yep. Well, I have it here.
Can you run some quick math for me?
I can try.
So I'm on the, where we reduce by a percentage.
Okay.
So what if we did by 0.3 instead of a 0.5?
Are you gonna give me a second here?
Yep. $2, what are we looking at?
15.
That's the second
You're
credit.
it's 15.
All in, it's 15, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
gonna be about 15,000.
Yeah.
So you would want to do 0.3, Mark?
Yeah, do a 0.3 and just give me an idea what that is.
So we're basically you would accept 70% of the recommendation. Is that the
Yeah.
opposite side of that? Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So what would you like to know?
Just, right now, if I'm totaling it up, I think all of the increases work out to be about 15,000 and change.
As is would be 15,694.
Okay. So what would that be
It
at?
would be It would be right at $10,985.
10,985. Got it. So that would be if we leveled that at 0.3, you'd cut off about 4,000 of that recommendation.
It drops the aggregate to 2.27.
And just so I can, what about 0.8 or 0.2?
So do 80%.
Yep.
It brings the total amount of dollars to 12,555, and it brings the aggregate to 2.59.
And then might as well do a 90.
It brings the total dollars to 14,124, and the aggregate 2.91.
That's at 90.
That's at 90, yeah. So that at least gives you some ranges as we look at it.
Well, that gets,
Thoughts, Steve?
well, I think what, so correct me if I'm wrong, Keisha, but you're looking at trying to get to what the recommendation we made for everybody else at 3%.
Yeah, I was just trying to get to a 3, and it's really hard when, yeah.
Can you run a 9.5, Jake?
Sure.
That's gonna get us close right
Yeah.
there at 3.
So it brings the total amount of dollars to 14,909. The aggregate is 3.07.
There you go.
about as close as we're gonna get.
Yep.
guys.
What was 100%? What was the aggregate for 100%?
100%
Three point two four.
Yeah, it was
What was
15,664.
3.24.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so you got a little bit of a range there
Yep.
on the numbers. 0.95, if we accepted 95% of the recommendation, that gets us to about 3% in the aggregate. 3.24 at full, and then you've got the other ranges at 0.8 and 0.9. So
You felt when you went to that meeting that they was very responsible?
yes,
And
yeah, they did it, I think, in terms of taking into account how everybody performed during a very trying year.
Yep.
I think if you think about everything that
It's
went
being
on,
leaders, being
they,
managers.
our elected officials were leaders. I can't say enough about what, the courthouse folks did. Jake, Michaela, Karen, Ed, to get us operational. Jason wasn't as impacted by the courthouse issues, but they had their own set of circumstances this year
With the COVID,
that
yeah.
were unique. So I think everybody stepped up in a great way, and I think the comp board took that into consideration along with what's going on in Marion County. I think they did an excellent job. I don't have an issue if you want to accept as is, because leaders should be compensated for leaders. And
well, it only amounts to.
Yeah,
In a
it's
total
not
aggregate,
much.
$700.
I just, you look at the numbers and you think, well, yeah, you could say, let's do what we did, but these folks have increased responsibilities, they lead departments, and like we've said in all of our meetings, they've handled their budgets extraordinarily well. And I think they just really stepped up during this time. So I have no problem with this recommendation as it stands.
I don't either.
Nor do I.
Very good. Is there a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion, we accept it 100%.
Second.
Jake, we have a motion to support to accept the comp board recommendation as presented.
All right, thank you. Ramey,
Aye?
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Very good.
thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for just running those couple of numbers.
Yes, thank you, Jake, for doing
Appreciate
that. Lost, is that what we're doing?
Next, okay, since we've got that, let's talk overall changes.
Budget changes, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
so we've talked with all the departments, we've had some folks make some edits to certain line items. Very few, as a matter of fact, because there isn't a lot of change year over year. Our biggest changes coming are going to be our projects with the VA, Prairie Ridge, bonding, those issues.
Yeah.
We know we have increased revenue, as Jake has pointed out, as far as from valuation. Are there anything you see from our discussions where you either want departments to go back and recalculate, make some adjustments, any things you want to cut out of the budget?
Well, I think everybody's made a good argument for their budget. I think they've all tried. I think in the last couple of years, since we've been going through this, I think everybody has become way more aware of where we're coming from.
I understand.
And I appreciate that effort.
Yep, I do too.
Steve, I think that's it's a great point when you get Ed in here saying that he's gone from 10 employees to 7. Jason has been willing to operate under really 3 years of expense constraints, where he's capped at 2017 numbers on his expense side. Other departments have done the same thing and looked for ways to be more efficient, more effective.
Yep.
So
I would like to be able to work with everybody while we can. There may come a time when we have to really, really start digesting things and maybe cutting stuff, but I don't think this is that time.
Jake, just real quick off the top of your head, or if you've got it in front of you, our overall expense increase from current fiscal to this, excluding major projects, is what?
Well, our total overall expense, is that what you asked for, Mark?
Yep.
Let's see here once. 33, 8, without, like operationally wise, it's 18 million. Let me, here, I can get you a different number here in just a second.
It's not an 18 million increases.
No. Let's see, that's 13 plus.
Mark, you're in the 25.5 million range.
For what, Jake?
For expenses?
For 2020, 2021, or?
Oh, I'm sorry. That would be budget.
Are you going
For the
off these cash flow sheets, Jake? Is this what you're looking at?
Sorry, I was thinking that Mark had asked for just the expenses without the bond stuff for the 22 proposed budget, I guess is what I was thinking you were looking for.
And that's what I was looking for, so it's 25?
Yeah, well, so I did, with some big numbers like that, if you want to take, you can see what you're looking at in front of me. If you want to take that sheet that had the breakouts, one second.
What tab was that?
Well, I don't know if he's doing this is the cash flow, and we have expenses on it, like general.
Here, just a minute, Keisha. If you want to go, I'm going to use the sheet that had the breakout with the salary, wages, FICA, because you want all that included, right?
Yeah. Let's see, what's this sheet, I think.
I'm going to set my headphones on just a second.
No worries. Yeah, Jake, I'm just looking for the increase in overall expenses.
This is,
year
I
over
think
year.
this is what he's looking
This one
at.
right here.
Yeah.
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 I think we know what you're looking at, Jake.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because you have to, those bonds make
Yeah.
the, on the sheet look a little different.
Yeah, you just gotta take that out. So
Correct.
if I'm looking at the right numbers here, we're 18.594 current year, and we're going to 18.313.
Yeah, and those are operational, and then you'd have to add in, yes.
So as proposed, we've got a 1.51% expense reduction year over year.
Operationally.
Okay.
Operationally,
Yeah.
that's on the non-salary side.
Yep. And the salary side, do we have that other sheet that has the salaries?
Isn't that 3.37?
Was
Yeah,
that,
it's right. It's just over 3%.
those three?
Yeah, right here,
On the
top,
Right at the top,
at the top. So here,
Let me see that.
3.37.
that's how he's getting his numbers. Yep. I see where he's.
Okay, yep, 3.37. So net effect is gonna be almost sub 2.
Yeah. Oh, that sheet.
Yeah.
Is that, am I figuring that right? Go back to my old math here. So Jake, is it fair, it's different impacts but it's almost, if you put those two together, different weightings, of course, but it's
Right.
almost a 2% increase
Yeah,
If you
across
subtract
the
the
board,
one,
if
yep,
you
yep,
put everything together.
yep.
So 2% year over year, and most of that then is gonna be salaries and
Yep.
health insurance.
Health insurance.
So that's, I don't know about you, but I can live with that.
Yeah, me too. I think
That's-
that's showing that our leaders are doing, they're doing exactly what we've asked them to do. Be mindful. We,
I mean,
I
how
spoke
many- how
about
many-
this,
Has the federal budget increased by only 2%? Or the state? And had their operating costs actually go down? I mean, that should actually be a headline. Sorry, I know we have media on the line, but we've got a group of people that have reduced overall operating costs in a year post-COVID, or still in COVID. That's an incredible job. I think everybody has responded to what we've asked them to do in a significant way to get to that point. And again, that's the budgeted number, so most of these departments have never spent 100% of their budget,
budgets.
so it's probably in aggregate less than that.
Yes.
That expense reduction will be even more at the end of the day. Is that fair, Jake?
yeah, it's always, we're talking FY '22 and we're not even done with '21 yet on the, it's always hard to show those differences from 3 years back, but yes, when it comes down to it, without budget amendments, 100% isn't ever expended, so yes, I believe you're fair, that's a very fair statement.
That's right. Now, we have the bonding issues coming up, but that also lends it that, people are being responsible on this side of the ledger as we try to do these bigger projects. That's pretty incredible, I think.
Yeah, that would be outside of, major capital projects that you guys have undertaken.
Yeah. Good. Thoughts, folks? I have no problem just accepting the budget as we've gone through, as presented.
I do too.
Yep.
I'm fine.
Make the motion.
Jake?
Yep,
I know we probably can't do it here to accept the budget yet, but
right.
I think you can prepare it that we'll accept the budget as presented.
So what basically we have is Kim will come back with those changes from that structure change on that grant. And otherwise, I'll go ahead and prepare all publications and things for the budgets as submitted at this point then.
And you'll change those things that we talked about with you yesterday, Jake? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You talking about the line item thing that we're gonna shift that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
head of the non-departmental side.
Okay.
And that'll be for the proposed, for the proposed budget then,
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, we've had, at least during the course of these discussions, several $100,000 in work comp reductions. Now, that's over several years, but we've gone from 200,000 to 90. Am I remembering the numbers right, Lisa? Health insurance is a little bit of a flyer, but we are asking people to contribute more. We've done that. We will probably have to look at that at renewal and make some determinations on where we want to go with that. Now, I know I said this year we're not going to make changes, but going into next year, we have to start thinking about this for that cycle. Senior nutrition, another incredible job that Kim did with that to provide great service but reduce that cost. So now dollars are aligned with the actual services we provide. I'm just going through little highlights in my head. Jason really manages I think a pretty complex budget when you think about what the sheriff's department has to do, but always does it within those constraints that we put on him. And I think does a good job, and that's tightening up for him. Tyler, our largest budget, always has a great fiscal plan,
It does.
and for how
Always
to
forward thinking.
yeah. And then Kim, to run public health the way she runs public health, and go down from what was a $345,000 county ad spend to 121 is incredible. So, and then our courthouse departments, Michaela, really being the test case for a different type of service model.
Yep.
And she did that and has done that exceedingly well. That's not to slight anybody on the screen because everybody has done well. And then we have our revenue producing conservation department, Steve Edwards.
Yep.
Well, he used to be revenue generating.
Oh.
Steve, don't listen to
Steve's
the
on
other
mute.
Steve.
He's probably fumbling for the. All right. Jake, let's talk lost and levies.
Okay. We're gonna do levies. Want to do levies next?
Let's do levies next.
So you can look at it a couple different ways if you want. Obviously, the levies in the proposed budget that you have right now are the exact same levies as last year. As we talked earlier, you have if you want to go to your very first tab, you can, the state reports, and those are on the proposed, and like the very first page.
Got it?
The very first page would be the summary of the levies and basically the equivalent tax ask, you might say. So you can see that this holds a countywide levy of $10.81. That's column R.
Yep, right here. We're here, Steve. We're clear up the front page.
So by these levies, the column R levy rate, that flows through from the valuations into the amount of ask that you're asking for countywide. So it comes out to a countywide levy of $10.81, basically. You do also have a levies tab, which the a little bit further down in your book. But in comparison, that $10.81, last year it was $10.63. So it's just shy of an 18-cent levy increase. And that is effectively all from the debt service component of your levy for the recent bond issuance. And the part about that is it's all
bonds?
levies. It includes anything that's in the increment. That levy portion goes into that as well.
Got it.
So general fund is maxed at the 350, but would not exceed that, would not need to go anything further than statutory. The general supplemental, the second one down, the $2.40, that is discretionary at your, if you would want to change that at all. Mental health services fund is kind of mandated by the state, and that dropped 2 cents. Debt service is at 24 cents. Again, it's the amount required for the principal and interest of the two issuances that you have out there right now. And it is actually lower than it would be if you were not moving the 300,000 of the local option sales tax into it to help lower that levy. And then the rural services fund that is paid in the townships, that is at the 395, which is the most it can go, and you have the most you can transfer over out of that fund to the Secretary of Road Department to help keep that operations going and keep snow off the roads.
Jake, just so I can get a little history here, and since we do have several media folks on the line, the levy rate 1081,594.
Yep.
Okay, you said that was 1060 what?
10.63808 last year.
Okay. So I'm gonna do my rough math here.
It's about 0.17786.
Yeah, it's 18 cents.
That's difference.
And you can go back here, Mark, and you can see it on this sheet, which is on levies.
And that's pretty much all that attributable to Prairie Ridge.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. So I think one of the things to think about here when we have talked about taking on these projects, from a public standpoint, we're not having to increase our operational levies. We've got some counties, is this a fair statement, Jake? Especially our 350 general fund levy? How many counties are now over that? Do we know? Is it like 30?
It's on Department of we could look on the Department of Management. It was around, I don't know specifically, but it was around that number, last year.
Yeah.
So you think
Exceeding the max. And of course, a lot of those counties are farther south.
Yeah.
But yes, and so that would be then exceeding the $3.50 maximum level for the general fund levy.
So we have roughly 30 counties, or a third of Iowa counties are having to go over that levy. We do not have to do that. We've got expense reductions in operational costs, still providing reasonable wages for staff, and we're able to support these projects, which are going with, I mean, the hope is to materially change the economics in Marion County. That's huge. That's just huge. And we have incredible residents. We've got a county positioned to be able to do that. Great employers, and we've got some folks here that are taking it seriously about how they're supposed to function. That's very good. Very good from a business standpoint. We're running about as efficiently as we can in order to support these other projects. That's very good. You know, the interesting thing is Congress passes laws, and usually Congress people are exempt from those laws, but three of us actually pay this too.
Yeah.
We're not exempt.
Yeah, we're not exempt.
Very good. Any questions on any of the levies? The only one that I look at periodically, Jake, you know me, is that general sup levy.
Right. So if you want to see what a reduction would do, if you go to the cash flow report on that tab, you can see what.
Yeah. I don't know if we have the wiggle room. Could you
It's
go
the
down?
fourth
89?
tab. And the second sheet would be supplemental.
I looked at that too, and thinking,
So
we've got it. We're
kind of shows you what a 5 cent levy change would be.
89.
Either direction, you know.
I am not seeing much wiggle room there.
And Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, but the expense increases out of this fund.
Okay.
We're proposing another 63,000. Is that mostly probably health insurance?
So this fund is it's a limited use for how it can be used, and yeah, it would be all the benefit side for families, health insurances, liability insurance, all of those insurances, also election expense. It funds emergency services, amongst some others. So those are the biggest ones, but it's the benefits and insurance is the biggest drivers there.
Yeah. Does Tyler's come out of? Where does Tyler's come?
His benefits?
Oh no, his benefits come, but even his salaries. Do a lot of them come out of?
His salaries come out of Fund 20, the secondary road fund.
Oh, okay.
Like ACRS and health, all come out of funds too.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah. I don't think we can.
I don't see much change there.
We got a lot of things.
I looked at that too, trying to see if we could get that down to being able to drop the levy a little bit.
Yeah, the only other thing we could do is, anybody interested in netting out the valuation increases?
Netting out the valuation increases.
So we increased revenue by 500, roughly, because of valuation. The way you would net that out is here.
So this revenue line, Mark, is more than, like on the sheet, the cash flow sheet that you're looking at is more than just taxes. It would be any, not that there would be a lot, but it would also be any outside revenue into
Yeah.
that fund as
Yeah, and
well.
I'm just thinking the valuation increase, Jake, we've said was what, about 500?
The what?
The amount of revenue attributable to increased valuations was about 500?
It was we had about a $50 million taxable value increase
But broke all
this
down.
this year. So take that times that levy, and that would be how much extra you had gained on this fund. Is that what you're looking for?
Yep.
So you gained about 70 million in the tax growth for that fund at $1.40. 70,000, excuse me.
70,000, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm going away.
I'm sorry.
$1.40, $2.40?
Yeah, no.
Wait, what's the $1.40?
And I just round. I mean, at a rounding. So with the valuation growth.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
that's about 70,000.
So, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
70 million, we'd be
Yeah.
That'd be great.
having a different discussion. Sound like the federal government there, Jake, for a minute, just add zeros.
And my
Just
valuation
shake the
and my
trees,
tax
you
dollars.
Tad. Yep, no, you're good.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah, I don't think we should.
I don't think we can do anything
I don't
different
think we
there
should.
when
I
I'm
think-
looking at that.
I think we're holding the line against something that's, we're right on that borderline. Like Jake said, if you look at those counties that have had to raise that general fund levy, there's mostly south or more rural even than we are. And I think we're on that, for Marion County, we're right on that line. Where the dollars that we're using, we're not increasing the levy. Now people are saying, and we've had residents say this, property taxes have gone up, but it's a function of valuation. So when you do your math problem, it's a function of values going up, driven by cheap money. And I don't like, that's artificially inflating all those new purchases up. Now, but I think if we don't have to raise, I think that's good. I think we hold the line.
Well, hold the line, yeah.
I think this year. We hold the line, we take the expenses that we're saving. We've paid major court applications in cash. Yeah, I can't think of much else right now. Comments, board, I don't see
Nope.
any.
I don't see any.
I've
seen
any
it,
levy changes, Jake.
Okay, so we'll include in your proposed budget will be the levies as presented in this version then, which would be the same levies as last year.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
We'll go to lost.
Sounds good.
Lost,
Okay. The lost question, I guess, to include in the proposed budget, and that would be on your, is just the percentage on how you want to split out the portions of it. Half of it needs to go to the capital projects fund. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would be your fifth tab. And for the last several years, you've been taking 30% of that collection to support the general fund and 20% to the general supplemental fund. So those show as revenues into those funds.
Right.
So you have the ability to adjust those if you want to. You just also used to supplement the rural supplemental a little bit, but you eliminated using that fund a few years ago. So now it's just It's just been these two funds. It can go how you want. This is the way it's presented now, which was the same percentages last year.
Jake, when does this come up for renewal?
It comes up, well, generally at budget time, because then that projects out the fund
No,
balances
when
that you're
is-
looking
what-
at.
But when do the voters have to reserve?
Oh, actually, that's, I believe the sunset is in 23. Tyler and I were just looking at that the other day. So that's something that does need to be on the thought process here moving forward. I think the sunset is aligned with the city of Pella and the city of Knoxville's as well. Several of the smaller cities in the last go around of local option removed the sunset clause, so they don't actually have sunsets on their collections of local option sales tax, which made sense to them because they come to the town, these towns to buy it and stuff like that, and they get their proceeds back. So that's a lot of words. I believe it's in 23 is the sunset. So, and that will need to be addressed via a vote.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Board, any changes to the percentage distributions on lost? Or discussion?
Tyler, are you on?
He was.
He is.
You talking to me, Steve? I had my radio on, sorry.
Yeah. Are you contemplating lost money if we were to ever improve the Junction 92 shop?
Yes.
So the current structure is beneficial to the development of that in the future?
That's one option. Let's put it this way. Board of Supervisor discretionary funds of some kind, either local option sales tax, county home funds, or general fund, even rural services, which would be Fund 11, can be used directly to pay for a project. You transfer the maximum, but the key word there is transfer.
Mhm.
So general fund or rural service funds could be used directly for a secondary road project. So to answer your question, we would need some money to complete the project in the timeline I have laid out.
Okay, and the way we have it structured now, we are putting into that fund. Yeah, okay, I just want to make.
And I have proposed local option sales tax just because it's probably the.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have our ducks in a row going
Easiest.
forward.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, based on the current allocation, Steve, if we wanted to take, if I'm reading this, so it's 50%, 30% of this goes to the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have one way or the other access to that. If
Yeah,
we want to do
I
something.
wasn't quite sure how that money was transferred and, okay.
And then some of this is debt service too, right, Jake?
Yeah.
Well,
for the 300.
it isn't at this point. The only way it could become debt service is if you would borrow bonds or borrow, go through the structure process to actually borrow for that shop. I think Tyler's goal is not to borrow.
Correct.
No.
Not to borrow for that job.
No,
sorry.
Not what I'm talking about. Lost
Okay.
funds, some of it goes to paying off the law enforcement center.
Right.
Yeah, so, and when you're looking at that,
Page back.
the first page there, the part that's going into that Fund 29,
There we go.
and there are no outside projects at this point slated for any other expense.
Right.
So I think to Steve's question, that's you guys during last year's budget kind of indicated that there wouldn't be any local option sales tax projects, and you kind of banked that a little bit for potentially use of Tyler's shop, you might say. And to answer Mark's question, yes, that there's $300,000 that would be transferred to the debt service fund, which makes that debt service fund levy lower by that $300,000.
And that's something we could carry on once we get the LAC paid for.
the ballot did not require that 300,000. That's something that the supervisors did when they
Right.
built the LEC through that project. Once the LEC is paid for, you could, I mean, there's nothing holding you to that. That's been the practice of the boards.
Yeah, so I think where you're going with this, Keisha, is that if sales tax stays, if our residents recertify, we could continue that type of structure for current bond payments.
Correct.
So we could continue to do that.
If the sunset clause is in 2023 and it looks like 2024 is probably a date for the LEC to come off, so could we possibly have a year in there that we're gonna have to come up with $300,000?
Yes, you're going to have to pay your principal and interest.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a specific levy only purpose use. So, yes, you would have to make that principal and interest payment. Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right, so have to think a couple of cycles ahead once we get done with this, but I don't see any reason to change
I
the
don't either.
structure right now,
I don't either.
so. Jake, let's go with as is, let's go with the same
Just
structure.
as is.
So that we'll prepare draft resolution for your consideration with that structuring in the documents with the proposal of the budget as well. That would be final decision. If something between now and when you do that, you change, I mean, you still have that discretion. Appreciate this, knowing just how to prepare these documents moving forward. So,
Yep.
Yeah, very good.
appreciate that.
You bet, Jake. Thank you for all your help. Board, any final thoughts on budget?
So your next meeting, working on agenda now for your next meeting, that will be the max levy public hearing and resolution, with you stating that you aren't going the maximum amount of tax dollars that you can collect, which following today's discussions anyway, and that will take care of that device, and you will meet that with your proposed budget that you will then consider on March 9.
Yep, sounds good,
So-
Jake.
Yep.
Okay.
Hey, Jake, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
for everything. I know, you
Yeah.
know, you do a lot, this book alone, all the extra work, all the extra asks. We appreciate you. We appreciate
We
all
like
the department
we like
heads.
making books.
So.
That was a joke for the other side of the room.
All right,
Thanks,
very good.
Danny.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Board, thank you. Good process.
Jake does like a good book.
Very good.
Yep.
Keisha, Steve, good process. Thank you.
Yep, no, thank you, Mark.
Good questions. And again, good job. If there's nothing else, we'd have a motion to adjourn.
Big motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Combs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye,
Johnner,
Aye.
we are adjourned.
thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Keep this book till next year.